Welcome, Dave. Really appreciate you joining me today. We have the Honorable David Walker. Dave was the former Comptroller of the United States under President Clinton and under George Bush as well, and also headed up the U.S. Government Accountability Office. So you're really the head Chief Accountability Officer.
Right. I was the Auditor General, Chief Accountability Officer of the United States.
Thank you, Dave, for all the many years of service that you've provided to the United States, myself being an American citizen, although I'm currently sitting here in Melbourne, Australia. I want to start off with asking you something that's been a buzz in the news right now, which is DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. So, as somebody who's been in technology for quite a number of years, and I've seen the benefits of technology and AI in organizations, I'm curious to hear a little bit about your thoughts around how AI can transform government or business and what lessons there are for business leaders.
Well, let's talk about what DOGE is, then we talk about AI. DOGE is originally was going to be a structure outside of the U.S. government. Now it's inside the U.S. government. It's actually an office within the White House. They are focusing on primarily technology, looking at the systems that government has, trying to look for opportunities to improve economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. I would say right now they're more transactional in nature. For example, the USAID, they identified a number of expenditures that they felt were inappropriate, improper. That doesn't make them illegal, okay? As you know, there's a huge difference between the philosophy of the last administration and the current administration as to what the government ought to be doing and how it ought to be doing business. So it's gone there. It's going to various other department agencies. It is trying to provide some applications of AI, if you will. One of the biggest problems that our government has is it has thousands of non-integrated legacy information systems. They don't talk to each other. And therefore, to the extent that you're trying to get things done cross-governmental entity, it's a real problem. Like, for example, if somebody died, the Social Security Administration may know about it, but the tax authority may not know, the health people may not know, and people, fraudsters try to take advantage of that. So, DOGE is much needed, long overdue. I wish them success, but at best, they're going to make a modest down payment in what has to be done to get control of our finances. We're spending 5.5 billion a day more than we're taking in. And so, we've got to be able to make a lot tougher choices than just what DOGE is going to be able to do. And that's going to take legislation.
Looking back at your history, right, when you were actually working in the accountability office, and you were looking at the amount of spend that happened, you had up until from 1789 up until recent times, there was a certain amount of money spent, and that money has been spent more than that amount in the last few years.
Of course, a dollar was a dollar then. That's a whole different story. Okay, I mean, if you look back, to give you a metric, back in 1980, total debt of the United States was less than $1 trillion. Now it's 36 almost $3 trillion, and growing rapidly by 5.5 billion a day. And in addition to that, we've got another 90 trillion in unfunded civilian and military pensions, retiree health care, Social Security, Medicare, et cetera, other social insurance obligations. So the real challenge is a lot bigger than the politicians want to admit.
And I think looking at it, obviously there's that long-term viability of the United States and our position in the world and what we can spend on. And I draw a comparison of the Roman Empire. At one time they were just spending more than they could afford. That's going to lead to problems. You'll see it in social problems, political problems, and people focusing on the wrong areas. But there's always that balance of the long term versus the short term, whether you're in business, whether you're in government. So what advice would you give to people that are running very large organizations, or whether it's in business or government, on how to maintain that, fiscal responsibility, but also the balance strategically for the long term?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, leaders, whether you're in the private sector, the public sector, not-for-profit sector, your job is not just to generate positive results today. It's not just to leave things better off when you leave than when you came, but leave things better positioned for the future. Right now, our political leaders are not doing that. They're living for today. They're not taking steps to help create a better tomorrow. You talk about Rome. Rome was the longest standing republic in the history of mankind, about 500 years. The republic fell, then an autocracy took over. The empire lasted about 1,000 years. It fell for several reasons: fiscal irresponsibility, political incivility, overextended military, inability to control its borders. Do those sound familiar? We need to learn from history.
Yeah.
We need to learn from others. We need to start taking steps to help create a better future.
Absolutely. And learning from others, I think, is an important point. So I've lived in Australia, I've lived in Thailand, and I've seen different ways that cultures interact with government, with private organizations. You're involved in something called the Sovereign Fiscal Responsibility Index years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And how do you learn from other countries and what you can take from lessons there?
I think it's critically important that you learn from history and learn from others. Unfortunately, the United States doesn't do a very good job at that. I mean, there's a lot of people in our country, especially elected officials, that think that since we're the major superpower on earth, that we must be, top three in everything. And when in reality, we're below average in a lot of things that really matter, like healthcare outcomes, like K through 12 education, et cetera. Back when I was head of the Come Back America initiative, I partnered with Stanford University, which is one of our leading universities in the United States, master's students from around the world, and we developed the Sovereign Fiscal Responsibility Index that measured the position and the outlook of about 40 countries, as I recall, around the world. At the time, the U.S. was rated 28, and I'm sure that we would be worse than that today because things have spun out of control since 2008. At the time, Australia was number one. I can't say that Australia would be number one now because we haven't redone the numbers. New Zealand was ranked very high as well. And one of the things we need to do is to learn from others, right? I mean, one of the things we need a constitutional amendment to limit how much debt as a percentage of the economy we can take on. Germany has one, Switzerland has one, Sweden has one. If they can do it, we can do it. We just need to get it done.
Yeah, that's a great point. And in your book, America in 2040, you can paint, what could be a dark picture, but also there's the opportunity for a bright picture. So thinking about the key themes of that book, what lessons would you leave as a final takeaway for the audience today?
Well, the leading indicator on the way up is a superpower. The leading indicator on the way down as a superpower is economic power. No country is exempt from the laws of prudent finance. If you don't put your finances in order, you won't maintain economic power. If you don't, you'll lose diplomatic influence, you'll lose military capabilities, and you'll start having domestic tranquility problems. We can, we must, and I'm doing everything else to make sure that we will do what it takes to make the tough choices, to make sure that our future is better than our past. And that's what the book is all about. And it doesn't just relate to the United States. It relates to the whole world.
And to business as well.
Correct. Yeah, they're transferable principles. Yeah.
I want to thank you for spending the time with me today, Dave. Pleasure to meet you, and look forward to connecting at a future event.
Thanks, Sean. All the best.
Thank you very much for your service. Thanks, Dave.